Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for 1 bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
War never changes. Just kidding. What a fun, weird, upsetting, entertaining, incandescent, and bizarre basketball game we watched tonight. Welcome to Mavs Moneyball's Group Therapy. You're joined by me, Kirk Henderson, editor-in-chief of Mavs Moneyball. I don't know what to make of that one. On the one hand, they were getting beat by 26 points. On the other hand, Kyrie Irving scored 26 points in the fourth quarter and nearly brought them back. It is something else. I am flabbergasted. Late game execution was once again terrible. I tend to think that the head coach should attempt a little more coaching, but I don't know. It's a wild concept. We'll see. Let's hang out for a little bit, get out of Dodge. I think if anybody is really concerned about process, concerned about what you're seeing on the screen, I think the main thing to really be actually concerned about is the lack of defense that the team is playing. I think the offense works itself out in the wash. I really, really do. I also think that what this 2-game stretch has shown is just how wildly dependent the Mavericks are on Tim Hardaway Jr. Theo Pinson and Jaden Hardy are not able to do it. Whichever Holiday we're signing, Justin Holiday is not fixing it. It's a depth challenge team, but I don't think that's really surprising. They just need to figure out a way to slow teams down a little bit. And I think that honestly starts with just a little bit better defense from every single player on the team. All right. Coming up first, I saw my man Brian come in hot and heavy. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Chief. How's it going?
It's good.
Yeah. Definitely. Like you said, the game had everything you could think of. Although I missed last week. I miss Bizarro Mavs. Can we get them back? That was really
How is
fun.
this not Bizarro Mavs? This is a completely different version of weird.
I guess, but it wasn't really fun until Kyrie went Super Saiyan in the fourth quarter. It was pretty much very old vibesy Mavs. That because last week was such an anomaly just on how freaking different and goofy the team was in general, and then obviously the loss on Saturday, was no fun. But anywho. I think I'm really done with the Jason Kidd experience. I'm done. It's amazing that somehow, even with the changes, he manages to get a reaction out of me. I just don't understand it. That can we talk about that challenge he did?
Oh yeah,
and wasted his time out. Theo, clearly clobbered McDaniels. Like what? Mm.
I don't know. I don't know what they're seeing as a coaching staff.
And the funniest thing is, I think it was Matthew in the Slack referenced how funny it is that Jason Kidd will let a team go down by 26 points, not call a timeout, but yet he will consistently call the timeout before 3 minutes. Like, what are we doing? Your team was dying a slow death, and he just nothing. Now there was 2 separate TV timeouts, and I'm sure he's just like, well, there were TV timeouts. No, that is not the same thing. Your team was dying a slow death. You did not care.
Man, I just got off a pod with Josh, and so I sort of revised my kid. Like, my kid gripes are more big picture in terms of just sort of how he treats Wood and sort of his lack of commitment to ever taking responsibility in the post game. Like, those things drive me nuts. But then I'm looking down the line, and as mad as I am as Theo Penson's in the game, I wonder who he's supposed to play. And I don't have a good answer for you.
Oh, no, absolutely. Like, I know I'm not mad at him to a degree on having to kind of shuffle through this lack of depth. That's not his fault. I mean, obviously Maxey on the way will help.
Yeah.
However, there's still these weird moments where it's just like he has to gradually play Theo and Frank for a minute just to get Josh Green a breather because, oh my God, that dude was he was gassed.
He played hard tonight. I mean,
I feel bad for him. He was just wrecked, like absolutely wrecked. And then, like you were saying, the Wood minutes. I don't know if there's enough time in a day to really break down how freaking weird this is.
Well, I know why. It's largely because there's not a Maverick on the team right now that can make a decisive, like, defensive decision. All of them get beat. All of them. Like, McGee played 2 minutes and was a -5. So Chris in the chat says, give Marquise Morris some minutes for some toughness. So I don't know, just so everybody knows this, Marquise Morris actually gave a pregame quote noting that he is not in basketball shape, and he understands that is why he's not playing right now.
Oof. That makes a little bit more sense.
Yes.
Then.
Right. He's not being benched. It's going to take a while, and that means he really got out of shape in Brooklyn, which I respect an honest king.
And so I'm a psychopath. So I've gone back and watched the kind of last minute, like about 10 or 15 times while I was waiting for you to come in and do your thing. So it's so weird because obviously the foul takes place when Minnesota has 27 seconds left. And then you look at the replay. Kid at first, he's waving his hands like he's actually hit. Well, first off, I was shocked because his hands are out of his pockets first and foremost. But he was waving, but then he kind of does the double fist thing. And Green kind of looks at them and then immediately fouls. But then nobody on the Mavericks made any type of reaction.
The choice there, though, and this is a strategic thing, the choice there, you foul earlier than that. You either don't foul at all or you foul way earlier than that.
Right. That's why it was so confusing because it seemed like nobody on the Mavs knew what the hell was taking place or what Kid wanted.
And that just might be a defensive miscommunication. I mean, they didn't have a center. They were playing some of the funkiest lineups we've ever seen Kid throw out there. And Matt, I get more frustrated thinking about the big picture of like, this is the team that Kid assembled. So I'm pissed at those choices, but then it's like, okay, I see why he made the choices from the heap that he had to choose from.
Yeah. And then the accountability thing drives me bonkers. Like, I didn't really care for his comment about the Josh Green thing. And then did anybody bother to ask him why he didn't call a timeout when that play was just like doomed? I
didn't see it. I mean, it was one of those where he just sort of shrugs off the thing, but yeah, I don't know. It's disappointing that the Kyrie fourth quarter was just wizardry. His shot had been flat and he just started burying all sorts of great looking baskets. It was fun.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is I kind of forgot he was there.
Well, yeah. And if I'm going to bring on some more folks, and if somebody else would like to talk about that, I would like to talk about that.
For sure. It just, and one thing I guess on the decision to leave Theo in there as the inbound passer, like Theo Pinson, out of anybody could have thrown in that.
Well, the play was
pass.
busted. The play was busted from the moment that Kyrie didn't get it on the inbound. Use your other timeout.
That's the thing that kind of drives me crazy. And then I think we've had discussions in the Slack before, and I've kind of brought up the point with Kidd. The Mavericks by talent should have enough to beat a team, but if Kidd is going to get out strategized, this team is cooked in a series. Like, I don't want to have to depend on Kidd to do like basic bare bones stuff at this point, because he's clearly shown, and this is game 52, he's doing really basic things that you shouldn't do. And I understand he's got new teammates or players, blah, blah, blah. But it's just like, I'm kind of over this experience, but I appreciate your work, buddy. And we'll talk soon.
Yep. Appreciate you. Okay. Coming up next, then we got my man, Brett. Brett, how you doing? Thanks for waiting.
What did you say? I missed it.
I said, hi, thanks for waiting.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, so this game, I'm probably more frustrated than I should be at this. I will say in general, there was lots of frustration with like how Luka was playing on offense today, and as you said earlier, like the offense is not the problem.
No,
they can score plenty of points, and like yes, I would be better if he took more catch and shoot threes. Like I think that's something he should do, and that it does slow down the tempo too much when he pump fakes occasionally on those, but that's such a minute thing, and they still score like 1 billion points per possession with him and Kyrie out there. Like there's, and that's something that obviously that will get better. Obviously they're not going to cut Theo Pinson because like for unknown reasons. Like that's not going to happen. However, Theo Pinson still being on the team at this point is a great example of like why having distance between your coach and your front office, or between players and the coach, or between the players and the front office, etc., is important for your team. Because I don't know what movie I'm thinking of. I think it's Moneyball, but there's a point in Moneyball where like the GM just simply trades a player to get the manager to stop playing him, and that is what has like I completely get that like they're injured and Pinson maybe has to play occasionally. I really don't think he's even better than like Ntilikina or whoever, but I get playing him occasionally. If you are going to play him like 8 straight minutes to close a close game, like you have to take that tool out of your coach's hand. Like you have to save your coach from himself if he's going to do that. You like it. I mean, that simply can't happen. Like there is no scenario in which Pinson touching the ball unless literally every other player on the roster had fouled out at that point would have been smart. Like it does not matter. Like Wood, Powell, Ntilikina, anyone else touching the ball in that moment would have been better. And I don't mean this just like to slight Pinson, but he's
emblematic of the fact that the Mavericks have treated a third of the roster as it doesn't matter for Luka's entire tenure. I mean, I just got off this, when they signed, who was the other? Why can I not remember his name? The other small guard who played really well in the bubble.
You mean not Burke?
Yeah, Burke. No, I do mean Burke.
Oh, Burke.
So when they signed Burke and Willie, those two guys were buyout guys, and then the Mavericks re-signed them to deals, and no one was offering either one of those guys deals.
Nope. Multi-year deals,
exactly. And obviously
case.
That's before Kidd and Pinson, or before Kidd and Nico Harrison.
Yeah.
So, but you go back several years, and really for the majority of Luka's tenure on the Mavericks, they have sort of said these roster spots don't necessarily matter. And unfortunately, with the length of the NBA season and the health and the sort of fact that you can't, Luka playing 70 games would be a miracle at this point. You just need bodies that can play basketball. And the Mavericks have sort of settled for several years now on not having let's face facts. The Dallas Mavericks two-way players have played significant minutes this year. And that just shouldn't be a thing for a team that was in the Western Conference Finals. You have to treat these back-end roster spots with a little bit of respect. The Mavericks cleared off Shannon Brown, and then 3 other guys to go get Christian Wood, and then they just re-signed Theo, and it's just I don't know. It's
I mean, but Kirk, you don't understand. He has development potential.
And it's not his fault, but
Yeah.
he didn't really he didn't really do anything bad, but he also didn't really do anything good. And
I will say, I do think, I mean, he obviously the fact that he made a single shot is genuinely like a better game than could ever reasonably be expected of him.
Sure.
Like him making any shots. But in my opinion, obviously the end of the game is terrible. I'm curious what play was even drawn up in the first place there. I don't know if there was one, or if it was just like, we're going to let, Luke and Kyrie figure it out. We're going to, like, anything beyond just there's going to be a screen at the top of the key. Like, I doubt.
Sure.
But I think in general, I would say that the game was lost between about 9 minutes and 6 minutes left in the second quarter. Because that was where they had cut it to they were down 10 and then they cut it to 2, and then they were down 10 again 3 minutes later. And that was when Wood and Pinson individually gave up 15 points in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Like the Wood stuff, every time I see him and I'm like, man, he's just so buttery on offense. And then watching him get bulldozed into the basket by anyone, they just have, that's where it's just like this whole roster relies so much on Maxi Kleber.
It's like, and I get people are like, oh, Maxi won't help that much. And that's true. Like, he's injured. He's older now. He's missed a lot of time. He'll be rusty, but he'll be competent. And every single other player on the Mavericks is not.
No, I mean, and it's like, I would like Wood to play just because I prefer his offense, but he was in 23 minutes. He scored 24 points. He was also a plus minus of 0, which is pretty remarkable. This team is just so weird. It's so many guys that have such really bad deficiencies. And then it makes Kid do stuff that feels a little nuts, like playing Pinson at center for 4 minutes.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Yeah, I don't disagree with him going small. I mean, I can't fathom honestly why Minnesota responded the way they did by taking Gobert out of the game.
Gobert was kicking the shit out of us.
He was dominating. He was like a plus 20 in the game, and then they just benched him because on one possession he got beat off the dribble. That was not a Jazz Gobert game where the defense let him down. He was playing incredibly well, and then they just took him off the court, and that is why I think Kyrie played incredibly well at the end. But if Gobert's in there, he doesn't get
his shots are tougher. That's the point. I mean,
yeah.
Are we ready? So you, Brett, are a big Luka guy, have been for a very long time. So let me ask you this: why do we think? And granted, they probably haven't had a single practice. They probably only had walkthroughs, videos, and talked about it. Why do we think there are no Luka Kyrie actions going on? Kyrie stood in the corner for much of the game.
If you're talking about Kyrie and his usage in the first 3 quarters of this game, I can't really even understand that, because it's not like they don't run guard actions.
Yep.
Like they did with him and Dinwiddie, or and they do with him and Hardaway, or him and Bullock, or him and Green. And so I don't really get that. I think that.
Do we think it's a time in a film? Because it's I've said this on a couple of shows. Brian Damaris, former Mavericks front office guy, now pseudo media member, said that, with Kyrie on the team, Luka should never see a double team again. I have seen a lot of Luka double teams in the two games together. So my question, and this is not a question like, who do we think it is? Do we think it is Luka with the plays he's calling coming up the floor? Or do we think it's Kidd and the coaching staff not emphasizing the fact that these two should run a pick and roll together because God might have a problem stopping them at the basket?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
It's weird. It's truly weird.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I do think that some of it in terms of like Luka as the role man or whatever should happen more. And I think some of not wanting to do that is probably on him. Like, obviously, when you have the offensive load that Luka does,
sure,
you don't want to put that stress on your body more. And so I get that. And so I get like not doing it a lot in the regular season. But not doing it at all. I mean, I think Kyrie played really passively for the first 3 quarters. I couldn't really figure, especially when Luka wasn't even in. Like, he in the second quarter, he just didn't touch the ball.
Yep.
Like, they just ran stuff with through Pinson and Hardy. Like, that was baffling. Like the way he played in the fourth quarter, any minute, like, I completely get that we all got burned out on Dinwiddie ISOing and stuff, but whatever. Like, Kyrie needs to do that like every time.
This is not the same though, because Kyrie makes the pass when it's there versus Spencer, who would wait 2 seconds too long
and give you. Yeah, I mean, he'd give people grenades at the end of the shot clock, but yeah, I mean, I think that Kidd. I don't. I mean, part of this is I obviously really don't think Kidd's a good coach.
Yes.
So my instinct is going to be to think that he's like the one at fault, because there's no evidence that he's done anything that creative on offense at any point ever in his career as a coach.
Yep.
There's been no nothing clever, no.
Right. That's not a hot take. That's just a thing.
Yeah, I mean that's just the kind of coach he is, and so. I think that probably you'll see more of it once they practice. Like they haven't, had a chance to work on anything. And Luka, I think, is still kind of. I will say he's kind of injured, but he's also always injured.
Sure.
Like his ankles are just like that. They're just not. They just don't work that well.
Yep.
But
no, it's something. So it's sort of the reason I prompted it to you is because you are a big Luka fan, and I think that by asking you that particular question, as a Luka fan, it forces you to sort of think about, is Luka at fault? I don't necessarily think it's a fault thing at this point, but it is something that I do think that sort of the extreme Luka partisans that I talk to fairly regularly, and maybe I am one of these people now and again, have to sort of ask the question, because it when this comes up in press conferences, it's going to be I hope somebody actually asks these sorts of questions, because LeBron and Kyrie would settle down and get a bucket whenever they needed one, using some actions together, because they're unbelievable basketball players.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I think you talk about asking those questions. I think that is important, because, I think it's easy to, as me, someone who's obviously a massive fan of Luka before I'm a fan of the Mavericks or whatever,
right?
Or of anyone. I mean, even if you're a fan of the Mavericks at this point, you are a big. Fan of Luka himself.
Right, just kind of comes to territory.
And so it's obviously your instinct is to be defensive of him and his play style.
That's why I asked it. That's exactly why I asked it.
And so, but I do think that I don't know. I think that there's just been so little.
We don't have enough tape yet.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know. I just feel like they don't run good offense just so much of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have anything good to say about.
No, it's weird. And that's why I asked, because it's a thing that sort of it's just puzzling, because they have to and I think they will find a way to make it work, because they've talented through 2 games and done pretty damn well. It's largely a question of, can they figure out some of these little hiccups, and can they execute a little better on the offensive end, and then maybe clean up the defensive stuff.
And I would say the biggest thing about Luka and his play on offense is that Luka is so much of a rhythm player that him having the ball a lot helps him play better.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that as his career goes on, he has to get better at being in rhythm without dribbling the air out of the ball. And that's something that I think that while obviously some of that's on him, but there's never been any indication from any report that says like he is like uncoachable or like doesn't want to be coached.
And he did a really, to Luka's credit, I think he did a really good job when he went back in the fourth quarter in continuing to facilitate through Kyrie. There were a couple of instances where he faked some cuts. He passed the ball to Kyrie and got out of the way. And that, for a guy like Luka, you don't want to give him a head pat, but I thought it was good to see.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say I was glad because I think in the previous game he came back in and Kyrie was cooking and he kind of just went back to the way he had to play for many years prior to then, right. where he has to assume that offensive burden rather than deferring. But I think in this game, he did a good job of deferring too much, on the last play. But yeah, I mean, but I think that so far, I mean, until there's any report of him being like unwilling to be coached or unwilling to try things out. But I think that, but I think that's, I mean, a lot of that is just like, to me, it just raises the question: is Kid or is someone in the room not?
I mean, and I think we need more tape. I think that's the solution. I have theories, but we just need more time. So, well, thank you for hanging out, Brett. This is a great conversation. Coming up next, Steven. Thank you for waiting. Welcome to the show. What's going on? Give Steven a second to find the mute button. Hanging out here. I just got an email.
Hey, Kurt.
Hi, Steven. How you doing? What's going on?
Pretty good. So who is the alpha of this team? Because right now it's looking like Kyrie. Everyone's running so much harder when he is kind of controlling everything.
So this is an interesting question. And I with how they've played, I've always sort of hoped what they would do. I've mentioned this on other shows, is play like the Brooklyn Nets did before James Harden got hurt, which was Harden was a point guard and ran an offense for 3 quarters. And then in the fourth quarter, they used Harden as a battering ram like he used to play with the Rockets. I hope the Mavericks would do that. I don't know if they will, but that's just my hope. I think that they're going to have to find a blend of playing faster earlier because.
So can Luka do that though? Because he got burnt out that second game versus his first game back,
which
he couldn't make the whole game because they were running too much.
Which, you know what? My thought there.
He'll get in shape though.
Right. That's where I come in. Is I'm just like, I'm sorry, tough. If he's not built for 48 minutes, that's becoming an NBA player and being in NBA shape is the thing that Luka has yet to crack. We don't talk about it as much anymore because he looks better than he did last season. But he looks like shit. He
went out for like 2 weeks. He went out for 2 weeks and he's like,
you're
fat.
not the first person
happened?
to acknowledge that. It's like, I try not to bring it up because I feel like it's fat shaming when I'm at.
I just don't even know how it's possible. You're a professional basketball player.
I do.
Whatever, 23, 24.
I think he shows it worse than actual weight.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's a bigger dude. Like, he's stockier.
Yeah,
sure.
and he kind of gives me like Carmelo Anthony vibes because Melo always looked like this to me where I'd be like, why does Melo have a food baby? Like, what's going on? And it just didn't matter.
See,
I don't know. It's one of these things that vexes me because I know for some people it like really upsets them. Because it's like if he's in great shape, then it changes things. And he's 23.
I think it's just like his focus. Like, is he focused? Where is he putting his attention? Is it winning or is it like,
right?
And I think that's something that Kyrie will be so good for because Luka plays very emotionally.
Yes.
And Kyrie is very focused. Like, he doesn't let things bother him, calls or anything. He's constantly like going hard on defense. And I'm hoping Luka will kind of, if they let Kyrie take a bigger role than just telling him he's second to Luka, like, I think that's one thing that Maxey does is Maxey riles up the other guys to try really hard because he plays so hard all game. And I mean, that's the reason why he's hurt, is because
Right.
he
played
like
so hard, he tore
disregards his body. But if Luka can, I think hopefully Kyrie will help him learn how to play off ball and move around, because right now he's just kind of standing there. If he can move, and I mean he'll be tired and he'll get in shape if he does that. But also I think it'll help our offense just run better if we're not so like everything kind of just really slows down when he gets the ball. And when Kyrie's handling it, everything is much more dynamic. And
so this is like some technical basketball bullshit, but the real problem we're running into, guys, is that we don't really like the aesthetic style of how Luka's been playing compared to what we saw for 2 games of Kyrie running the offense. But here's the real bear of it. In half-court offense, what Luka does is the most efficient basketball in 20 years of half-court. I'm not kidding. They score at such an absurd rate at the half-court level with what Luka does on these just post-ups and pick and rolls that, and the Mavericks know this. Luka knows this. So going away from it is difficult because you look at the numbers.
But is it a winning formula?
That is the question, because it got them to the Western Conference Finals and then they got blitzed. And I think
but they overperformed. I mean, it was pretty crazy because the Jazz and the Suns had our number for, seasons.
So it's all shooting variance. And that's not to take away anything from anybody. It's just sort of the nature of the game. And I think my answer to your question is it's not sustainable. However, there is a place for it in the offense. It is just not
like the fourth quarter, like the James
Harden. It just shouldn't be the offense is all. Because it's like, God, I love that Clippers game. Like that Clippers game is something I'll be thinking about for a long time.
It was fun. Yeah. I want a Kyrie jersey. He's always been, I've loved watching him, but I didn't realize how good he was at facilitating. I always knew he was like this amazing ball handler scorer, but I mean, he's really getting everyone involved. And
I mean, he is as pure of a savant of a basketball player as we've kind of had in the league. I think basketball comes so easy to him. There's probably a question as to whether it bores him.
Well, and he completely bought into Kobe's that all in attitude where all you want to do is like perfect your craft. And I wish Luka had, I wish it could rub off on Luka, that just desire to be the best version of yourself and not just settle for not being just content with being. Luka's gotten better every season, but I just don't. When I look at Kyrie, I mean, he's just
Kyrie was
on a mission.
Kyrie has been a knucklehead for 5 years. That can't be. It's just that can't be understated. When he's focused, it is so clear how good he is, and where that compares to the Luka stuff is we've seen games the last 2-3 years, stretches where even though Luka will put up outstanding numbers,
but it's all emotional. It's all emotionally driven. He gets pissed off, and then he takes it out on the other team. But the flip side of that, I mean, it's kind of like poker. You don't want to play you can win crazy hands when you play really emotionally, but you want to have this smooth, a very you want to stay within how you play. You don't want to.
You don't want to get too high, get too low. The season's too long. The season's way too long to ride purely on emotion. I mean, we've read everybody that's read basketball stuff knows that Jordan was so difficult to play with just because he ground the axe every game for 82 games. And it's just, most people aren't built that way.
Yeah. I loved watching Kyrie really take, he was really just shoving it right down like Rivers and, whoever they
He's
put,
had a
whatever
really good defensive year. He really has. That was one of those things where if it's several years now, but he basically called out wanting to guard Giannis in one of the series several years ago, and obviously it's not really a fair matchup because Giannis is enormous. But it's some games. There have been times in the past where I've watched him play where it's the defense is so flighty, and he's really trying hard right now. I like it.
It's crazy. I mean, he's always the right spot, the right time. He's always like swiping, and he's 6'2".
Yes.
And I don't know. I'm really enjoying it. But I'll let other people speak.
Oh, well, I appreciate you coming up. And the chat is getting a little riled up with me, and I do think you guys are correct in that there is like a recency bias going on here. I think what Luka does in the regular season is very, 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 very effective. I also think it's a product of who he's playing with. But we have also complained for the better part of 2 years about how we want more. Like, we saw what they did last year when they had multiple ball handlers and skilled guys. So it's like when you see another skilled guy with Luka, you want them to figure out how to maximize things. Now, I really do think they'll get there on offense. I'm just not worried about the offense. I'm really not. I'm a little frustrated so far because they haven't really done anything interesting. So what that then raises the question of what do they do if they do something interesting? Mr. Pry, what's going on? Long time no talk.
Long time no talk, Kirk. What's going on, man?
Just doing a little editing of Mavs Moneyball while I'm talking to you guys.
Word up. I appreciate your hard work. You know, we appreciate the things you do. I'm just going to dive right into it, and I've got my two things. The lesser of the two controversial things is Kid is painfully the exact opposite of Rick Carlisle, in the idea that we let go of Rick Carlisle because he was too much of a hard ass. He wasn't good with young people, and wasn't able to coach a young team and deal with all of the issues that comes with that. And Kid coddles. He coddles, and it is painful to watch, to the point to where, like, I want him to flip a chair. I want him to scream at a ref. I want him to just get in somebody's face and tell them, hey, you're not giving effort.
Sure.
It's not even a matter of, like, it's different, say last year. I felt like the team last year gave really good effort. We just didn't have the talent.
Yeah.
But there, in the past couple of games, and I'm not going to name names from the players on the team, but there have been times where I'm watching guys who are fighting for minutes, jogging on defense. All season, honestly, most of Luka's career, Luka has been screaming at refs instead of getting back on defense. That's its own totally different thing. And I get with the superstars, it's a whole different stratosphere of how you coach somebody. But at some point, Kid has to snap and tell guys, and to be a coach, and to give them direction, and to tell them, you're not running hard. You need to run hard or you're going to get benched.
See, I'm not sure. Miran Fader of The Ringer wrote a book on Giannis's rise, and Kid plays a prominent role in that book. If you were to read that book, and I understand it was several years ago, but I also don't know how much people really change in terms of their management philosophies. Kid managed that team through psychological warfare. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, some really, really uncomfortable in the modern NBA era, like, he got away with this stuff type things. Yeah, Nathan in the chat says, like, Kid made Larry Sanders quit basketball. And so I think he's softened a little bit to that degree, but he treats his superstars like superstars, and then tends to, come what may with the rest, which is what Christian Wood is finding out, unfortunately. And so I would really like to see him coach
exactly
harder. I just don't know. I just don't think it's who he is.
Yes. Yeah. And it's that idea that they're truly, like, he doesn't believe in a middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a superstar, you do whatever you do. I'm not going to, you have the talent, so go out there and be talented. That's bullshit. I'm sorry, Luka's 23. He has plenty of room to learn things.
Sure.
The second thing on my take list, a little bit more controversial, Kyrie is the best player on this team.
Oh, it's a terrible take, but I love it. Go with it.
I know. Hear me out, though. I understand from an offensive efficiency standpoint, yes, Luka Doncic is he is the king, honestly, of all the NBA from an offensive efficiency standpoint. There is still so much that he could learn from an effort standpoint, a defensive standpoint, earlier, I don't know who was talking about it, but talking about him progressing as a player. It's a, let's say he gets better at the mid-range. He goes from being great at the mid-range to being elite at the mid-range, but he is already working on something that he's great at. There are very blatantly obvious issues with his game that he just doesn't touch because he's so good on the offensive end. He's so good as far as orchestrating an offense that it really doesn't matter. And we've seen him give effort on defense. We've seen him try, and he's good. But he just I don't know what it is. I'm not his psychologist. I'm not his therapist. But
honestly, I think it's a long season. It's a mental load thing. Dog, quit barking. Sorry. It's like windy outside, and old knucklehead is just sitting there, like he doesn't even get up. He just like barks while laying down. Just gotta love old dogs. It's the length of the NBA season is when it's like now is when it becomes like really apparent. Where it's just these guys some of them look haggard, and so I do agree with you on the things that there's a lot that Luka could do to improve. And I think that when people sort of write off, he can't get better, blah, 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 it's because they don't think he can get better in these areas where it just takes a like marginal improvement for him to take. Cause he's, it's like the defensive stuff there are games where he locks in and he's great. It's just, we've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 110%. It's frustrating because we have seen it. We've gotten a little bit of we've gotten a taste of it before. And I understand that it's been a long season and we just recently got Kyrie. I feel like, if we had Kyrie at the beginning of the season and Luka wasn't constantly having to score 35 plus points a game in order for us to win by 2 points, it might be a different discussion. But God, it is so frustrating. And it isn't just this season. It was last season and the season before. And honestly, everything since his second season, when he doesn't get a call and he starts screaming at a ref and the other team goes into transition. And I'm just like, dog, you can yell at a ref and run at the same time.
Josh Bell posted a clip of Luka not seeing Kyrie score his first basket of the game because he's barking at a ref.
Man, don't tell me that.
No, it's not. It's like it's too much. It's too much, and that's where it's like I go back to wanting Goran at the beginning of the year, where it's like there just needs to be somebody to rein him in. It's not that he's wrong.
Yeah, just put him in his place.
It's just it's like I tell my 6-year-old this. My 6-year-old, I love him to pieces, but he has my temper, and he gets really mad at his coaches when like they take him out of games or like try to instruct him. And I'm like, I'd tell him because he's 6, but I'd be like, hey man, when you get mad, you need to channel that into something productive, because when you're yelling at someone in authority, all they're going to do is not listen to you. Now, I don't think he understands a word I'm saying, but I'm trying. It's like, that's the concept that I think that someone needs to really look to press towards Luka. Because it's like if he channels that frustration,
right.
We've seen him do it. Devin Booker pissed him off in the.
And
what if you just did that in a normal game?
Right? Yeah, it's the same idea of I remember as a kid watching Tim Duncan as a Mavs fan, and he would just piss me off because he would constantly complain. But the difference between Luka and Tim was Tim would complain, but also run back and get back on defense. And he would complain and go get a block and then yell at the ref and be like, see,
right,
ball don't lie, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And I just need that little bit extra.
I understand.
So I'll get off my high horse. It's been eating me up the past 2 games, just frustration on the effort end. And it's not just Luka. I mean, it's the whole team, but it's so easy to take it out on the star player because it's like you're supposed to set the tone. So,
well, thank you for joining us. All right, let's
see
what we got next. Everybody getting testy in the comments. Adam, how we doing, buddy?
Hey, Kirk, how's it going?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Could be better. Could be worse.
I'm sure you're a little tired, as am I, so bear with me.
We don't have these 8-9 o'clock start times. This is early. Go ahead though.
Yeah. So we have a limited sample size of 2 games with Luka and Kyrie, right? But from Jason Kidd's track record, he's a pretty conventional coach. Like, he needs to know that something can work for him to really invest in it. And I think what you said earlier was pretty insightful. I think he's really looking at kind of the Cleveland connection with Kyrie and LeBron, and putting Luka in that LeBron perspective, that LeBron role. It's like these two games, if you can kind of draw any kind of trend, you see that Luka has a kind of higher usage. He's dominating the ball a little bit more in the first quarter. Kyrie's kind of feeling it out. You definitely see, obviously, the third quarter, Luka is dominating the ball and Kyrie's kind of taken over in the fourth. Some of that may be just the stamina. Luka obviously is going to be, have the most energy at the beginning of the game and coming out of halftime. And maybe that kind of wears down, towards the end of the game. But they got to find a better diversification of offense, just to kind of keep defenses on their heels a little bit. Tonight was interesting. And also you can kind of tell, like, if they see somebody getting on a roll, they'll continue to go to them and feed them, which is positive, in most respects. Tonight was interesting because, Wood was obviously hot in the second quarter, right? Yep. He had 18 of his 24 points, 6 for 8 from the field in that quarter. And but like, I don't know if there's a way to maybe, you talk about kind of two, guard pick and roll, maybe like a Spain pick and roll where Luka is the ball handler, Wood is the ball screener, Kyrie is the, screening on Wood's man and popping out for 3, and kind of keeping those defenses on their heels a little bit. And also, I mean, these 2 games, there's obviously a limited sample size. We'll see what happens. At these end of the game, crucial kind of, crunch time situations, you see a lot of deference between Kyrie and Luka. I mean, tonight they didn't even get a shot off. Yep. It's and I mean, that can be positive. There's definitely respect there between Luka and Kyrie, but there's definitely going to have to be something ironed out there where, like, this is our goal. This is our modus operandi, in these closing moments. There's that's kind of been interesting kind of to see, but kind of be interested in kind of what your thoughts are on that. And, if there's any hope that, Kidd maybe adjust it a little bit. I
mean, Kidd talked a little bit in his post game about how it's just going to take time for these things, like possessions and situations, for these to work things out in these pressure situations. 2 games, 2 pressure situations, 2 losses where things didn't go their way. I think if you're an optimist and you're thinking, okay, Kyrie's shot was like flat. If he hits a couple more threes earlier, is that game different? Maybe. You never know. So there's enough positive, I think, to take away. I'm very frustrated with Kidd on certain elements, but I've talked about this during the show a little bit. I sort of think his hands are tied with the roster. So if he feels his best way forward is to let Luka and Kyrie figure this out, that's not the worst plan. I just need what I would like to more. How do we become, what my friend Matt Moore of the Action Network, he used to refer to LeBron James and Dwayne Wade as the flying death machine. You're not going to get that level of thing from these two, but like with the skill level and just the beauty of the game and the fact that they're both so cerebral, I think you could really get a lot. I think it takes reps, and I think it takes some willingness to try something different on both guys' behalf.
Yeah. All due respect, I want to push back on maybe a previous kind of comment talking about, Kyrie might be kind of the best player on this team. This is a very, you saw it last year, right? Kyrie, when he only had to play 1 game a week, he was great, right? He'd come in, score 35, but he's 6'2". He's, maybe.
I'm worried about his minutes right now. He's played a lot of minutes in 4 games.
you can't tax his body like that. Like, he's not that type of guy, like, and so you gotta, so yeah, he can be amazing in these spurts, but you're going to have to find a way to get some other guard contributions to kind of spell kind of Luka and Kyrie and not have them play 40 minutes a game, because that's not sustainable.
Or at least not in the regular season. Like, if you're going playoffs and you kind of know there's an end game, but there's still 23 games left. So,
yeah. Last thing, what are your thoughts on LaMarcus Aldridge? Obviously, that's a terrible omen, but it kind of, tonight's defense and the kind of interior kind of shows why they want that. But I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, he's a worse version of Christian Wood. I mean, it's like, what's the, unless he's, went to Germany and got like the German blood transfusion thing. And he
could give this team points. They don't need points.
They don't need points. Yeah. You need inside kind of interior presence that can deter kind of just that. And I do think, Christian Wood, like, I think he can be a better ball screener. I saw some of the comments. He can be a better ball screener. He's good on the pick and roll. They just have to find a way to maybe just.
That's where not practicing is a bitch in the season, because it's like you need that, because that's not always like the offensive fouls that he commits. I tend to think are mostly his fault, but that's also like a ball handler screener, chemistry thing where you learn where the ball handler wants screens and how to hold it just long enough. Like, that stuff takes time. That's why Dwight Powell's so good at it with this team, because he knows what these guys want.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the reason why Draymond is so great. I mean, they just have a telepathic power of knowing kind of when to go, when to stay. I mean, Wiseman can't pick that up in the 20 games he's played. I mean, it's a big reason why he's not there, but I'll kind of leave it there, but thanks a lot.
Sure. Thanks for coming up. I think we got one more guy, my guy, Micah. Micah, what's going on, buddy? We're all feisty in the chat these days because it's losing sucks, but I don't know. I mean, a couple different shots these games. I think everybody feels a heck of a lot better. So maybe they're, the 3 seed. NBA is strange like that. Micah, are you able to hit that unmute button? All right, maybe Micah dropped off. All right, guys, 12:15. I'm gonna go to bed. Nathan, that's a good question. He asked in the chat, how many buyout guys can the Mavericks get? So they have one open roster spot once Chris Silva's 10-day is complete, and they could move on from him right now. It's largely a question of how much money the Mavericks want to eat. They got off the contract. They basically, I don't remember the technical terminology for it, but they got off. Was the young kid who retired? He was the 2020 second round pick, Tyrell Terry. Thank you, Nathan. When the Mavericks basically cleared his contract off the books, the NBA granted them an exception, which, because the Mavericks were in the luxury tax, saved Cuban quite a bit of money. I doubt that is the sort of thing that we're all thinking about, but it's like there's a multiplier effect with these contracts. So I'm curious how much money Cuban would kind of willingly. Oh, excuse me, I'm hacking here. So yeah, they could theoretically cut a couple more guys and then get them, but I doubt they're going to do that because they have to pay for the salary. Scott notes that they're in the $3.75 per dollar tax range right now. So it's pretty expensive for them to do. All right. I'm dying. I'm hacking. So I'm going to go to bed. Thanks so much for hanging out. And we'll be back after the Nuggets game. Woo. It's a rough game to head into the All-Star break with. Everybody be good. Head to Matters Moneyball. We got a number of articles up. And Katie, you're fantastic. Never apologize for losing your mind in the chat. That's what this is for. We're supposed to argue and bicker. We don't get any say anyhow. All right, go Mavs.